I like to do the render. So to do that, we can go to render image. So remember, I'm using cycles. If I go to the render settings, I'm using cycles, GPU compute. The samples, maximum samples that I'm using for both the viewport and the renderer are the same, 256. Then there's nothing else that I've changed apart from turning on transparent so that the HDRI that we've used is not seen. But we can still get into these settings, go into color management, and we can change the view to something else, for example, filmic. But personally, I don't like it for this because it makes it, it's a bit much for me. If I change the look to very high contrast, it's still a bit much. So I'm going to leave it at AGX and the look none. So this is how I want it to look like. But again, if I go to my to render the image once more, you've noticed that this material for the candy is very flat. It has no depth, no realism or anything like that. And it kind of bothers me that it doesn't have that. So we are going to refine it just a bit. And then I think by then the render will start looking good. So what I'm going to add are scratches. So I'll select the mesh for the candy. Then I will move this. And I want to add another bump. So Shift A, bump. Okay. Then I want to add an image that I'm going to use for the scratches. So I can hit Shift A, then I'll type in image, and we have image texture. And then, of course, I can go to this other side and kind of pull this connection from here, but I don't want that. I'll create a new texture node and mapping node. So Control T. And under the texture coordinate, I'm going to be using object. Okay. Then I actually need to load my texture. So I'll click on open, and then I'll go to where I have saved the texture. So I'll link the texture that I've used in the description. So I have a folder that I call scratches, and in here, this is a free scratches images that I got. I'll link the site in the description. So I'm going to use whether I use the black, the white. So I'm going to use the white. And then I'll click on open. And then I need to preview it. So Control Shift click. And we'll need to change a few things because this does not look good. So the first thing that I'll change is the texture projection. So by default here, it's set to flat. And I'll change it to box. And then I need to adjust the scale so that I can start seeing the results. But instead of doing it from here, I'll use a value node. So I'll hit Shift A, add value, and click. Then I'll connect this value output to the scale input. Then I'll start increasing the scale. So right now you can see that things are moving, but you can't see them clearly. So we'll need to introduce a color ramp. Okay, so color ramp, connect it after the image. Then I can start making adjustments. If I move the black stop, you can see that now we can see the scratches, right? So adjusting the scale allows us to choose the basically how many scratches we'd like to have, so to speak, because the higher the scale, the smaller the scratches become, the more they become on the surface. So yeah, and the smaller it is, the larger the scratches. So this is going to be up to you. So if you increase, you want a lot of scratching. If you increase the value, if you reduce the value, you want very huge scratches like that. Yeah, that's what you want. That could be something you want. This would be cool, I'd say, right? So we could try it out as it is. If I rotate around, kind of looks wacky, but let's try it out. So I could connect the color. So let me make this large so that you can see the connection. This color output to the height input of the bump. Then if I preview the principal BSDF, you can see this is a bit much. This is crazy, right? But that shows us it's working. So if you wanted like huge scratches, you just need to reduce the strength. And there it is, right? And if I go to render image, and we render this, you can see now it doesn't look as flat and as boring as it was before, right? So this is something that I would recommend that you do. Add to the realism, because these surfaces are not always like crisp and untarnished, right? So let me change this to slot 2 so that if I render something else, we can compare. So then I can, in my case, I want them to be like tiny, like that. Then to reduce the contrast for the obliques. Then if I preview this, actually I'll preview from the bump, Control Shift click on the bump. And if we zoom in, we can see of the noise. And I can preview from the principal BSDF. I get into the camera view. So now if I render again in the second slot, the first slot has the previous render. So for me personally, I like this one. That's the one I'm going to use. So if I compare, we have the first one. It's a bit chunky. Then I have the second one. So I think it's a matter of taste, but I feel like this one is a bit much. You could use this, but maybe make the strength of the bump be really, really tiny so that it doesn't become overpowering. So I just want like these imperfections over here as well, just to add to the realism, right? Let's do slot 3 now and minimize that. Then I want to do the same for the overflow. So for that, I'll select the overflow mesh and go to its material. And I'll move this by hitting G. I'll add a new bump. Then you can hit Shift A, and we're going to add image texture. Right? And then remember, Control T. I'm going to use Object. Click on Open, and then go to where the image is. I'm still going to use the same image as before. So scratches, I'm using the white one. Okay, then I can preview. Then again for the scale, I can hit Shift A, add a value node, connect it. Then I can make adjustments. And I should start seeing something. I'm seeing something. So I'll change the projection to box, and I'll hit Shift A and add a color ramp. Then I can adjust. This. Maybe I can reduce the scale. Okay. Then I can connect this to the bump. So here's the bump. So I'll connect the color, this color, to the height. And then I can preview that bump. So this is a bit much, so I'll reduce the strength. Okay. Then for this, I feel like I don't need it to be that aggressive. So for my scale, I'll adjust it like so. Then let's go back to the bump. and preview that. I'll increase the strength and get into the camera view. So for this, I want to see it in camera. So I'm going to have the strength a bit up because it's thin. So something like that. And then I can, again, Control Shift, click on the principal BSDF to preview. And I can increase the strength. Because for this, I really want it to be obvious. Then I can go to render image. This is what we have, right? And if I compare from the first one, so this is the first one, then the second one, then the third one. For this, I really want to see the scratches for the overflow. Then I can choose slot 4. Then what we can do, you can actually select the candy, and then you can play around with the color. Sorry, not the color, but the density, the volume absorption, right? So I'll set mine to 450. So you can try 450, you can try 50, until you get something that you like. So if you wanted the colors a bit brighter, you can go for it. Now it looks perfect. No matter what you change, the color is just going to become darker and darker the higher you go, and lighter the lower you go with the density. So this is something I wanted to add before we did the render.